to Just Face It Radio Show with evangelist Staffy Butler Blakely, where we face life victoriously. And now, here's your host.
You've got to face life victoriously.
Well, hello, everybody. Look at my people, they're all here. Those people just love me. Hey, I hope you love me too, because I love you. Welcome, everybody, to the Just Face It Radio Show with your girl. Oh, yes, with Staffy B. That would be me. Yes, I am so excited that you are here with me right here on Vent Radio. That's right. If you are online, any kind of anywhere, if you want to view this, you'll go to YouTube and just pull up Vent Radio, Just Face It, and you can actually see the show. I encourage each and every one of you that's on my live, especially on my guests live, to go and download Vent Radio and subscribe. And that way, whenever I come on, you will be right there to view and to listen and to participate. As you all know, I'm still relatively new. I don't know how long I can keep using that line that I'm new. I've been here. This is my fifth show, fifth show, something like that. But nevertheless, it's going well. And I am especially excited. And you know, right here on the Just Face It show, we face life victoriously. And I tell you, we serve a God full of victory. And I just encourage you and want to remind you that you are a victorious people. Don't you let defeat become a part of your fabric. Know that victory is a part of who you are, because Jesus went to the cross. You know, he did all of that so that we would have some victory. So I want you to walk with your heads up. I want you to walk circumspectly before our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, knowing that you are a winner, that you won, that the fight was fixed. Yes, just for you. Listen, I need you to stay with me. This show is going to be absolutely wonderful. We're going to be talking about pastors and musicians and their relationship. Yep, we're going to be talking about it. But before I do, I want to remind you that the month of May is going to be a fabulous month. Yes, I have Jay Murray, who debuted his brand new single just this past Friday, I want to say. He's going to be with me. And then, my goodness, we're going to have mothers coming on the Mother's Day weekend, and things that black mamas say. Things that only black mamas probably do. I'm just thinking of a few things that I know my mama kept me together and has made me the person that I am today. Thank you, Evangelist Carolyn Hall. Woo! I'm just thinking back. Yes, but it has made me who I am. And then just guess what? My beautician, she is coming. Prayer hair in the chair. Let me tell you something. It is a different experience. I've been with her over 20 years, and I'm telling you, so all these colors and things that I do with my hair, you guys that follow me know you will never be able to describe me by color of hair, because today I'm blonde, tomorrow I'm red, the next day I'm black, the next day I'm brown. You never can tell. And then we're going to be talking to Kiwi. You know her as Kiwi, but Kim Pratt will be a guest with me here next month, and we're going to be talking just all kind of things with her. She's into film and rapper and things of that nature, female that's just holding it down. And so we're going to speak with her. And so I just got a great lineup next month. You don't want to miss it. I'm encouraging those of you who are online to share the show. We want to get these numbers way up, and we want the people of God to be a part. Listen, I'm going to start us off with some great gospel music. My wonderful guest here, I got a pastor that is a musician, Pastor Raymond Davis of the St. Peter's Church. Yes. Oh, okay. Those people, I'll tell you, they just love my guest as well. Pastor Raymond Davis is here, and of course, a young man that is just loves, and just lays on his face for musicians and pastors. He has a love, an absolute love. I've never seen nothing like it. He's a drummer in his own right. My dear brother, Minister Rodney White, is here from the Real Church. Oh, yeah. And so we're going to be talking pastor and musician relationship. Those of you who are pastors out there, who are musicians out there, and even lay members, I want you to call me. Don't call me now, but call me a little later at 248-429-7224, okay, when I give you the cue. And probably later tonight, there may be a giveaway. So you want to stick and stay. Listen, I got the man in the city of Detroit that knows every single congregational song since David was around. How about that? Come on, Lee Yerby. He's going to take us and we're going to do some storefront church. Stay with me. Here we go.
Call us today for your free estimate on your furnace replacement, AC boiler, water tank, or even electrical. We also offer labor services for any clean out or any kind of labor service job that may be needed.
We now offer new construction discounts for residential and commercial heating and cooling HVAC installation.
Jesus said it.
I'm just looking for some real praises out there right here on Vent Radio with the Just Face It show. Come on, Lee Yerby, take us to church. Come on.
Scripture had said it all. Scripture had said it. Yes, Scripture had said it. Out of your belly, out of your belly, out of your belly, yeah, out of your belly shall flow, 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 rivers, rivers. Jesus said it. Jesus said it. Jesus said it. Jesus said it. Believe on me. Believe on me. Believe on me. Believe on me. Scripture had said it. Scripture had said it. Scripture had said it. Scripture had said it. Out of your belly. Out of your belly. Out of your belly. Out of your belly shall flow, 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 flow. Yes, river, 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 river. Come on, clap your hands, everybody, and give God the praise. Come on, he's worthy. Come on, clap your hands. Come on, come on, come on. Come on and praise him. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Clap your hands for the Holy Ghost. Come on, everybody, and give God the praise. Yeah, 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 yes. Come on, give it to him. He's worthy. You owe God a praise. When praises go up, blessings will come down.
I just need to know if there's a few folks out there that'll pick them up and put them down. Shirley Boo, I know you'll go with me. Come on, shout, shout, come on. Ooh, come on. Brother Lee Yerby, yes, he just did every song you know. Every song that if you're looking for some good old down home, some good church music, Lee Yerby is the place to go. He's the one to see. He's the one. He knows. Listen, he knows every. I'm telling you, you can't catch him with his work undone. He knows every congregational song there is that has ever been made, and the ones he don't know, he'll just make them up, and we'll fall right in. You know how they used to do in testimony service, old mother get up and whatever happened in her life, the chicken was ready, and all we say is chicken was ready, and that's a whole song. All right, we're gonna go to some commercials, and I got my guest here in the studio. Pastor Raymond Davis is here, St. Peter's Church, and my dear brother, Minister Rodney White, they're here, and we're going to talk about pastors and musicians working together. It can be done.
Testing.
You're
1,
on,
2, 3.
Staffy.
Hey, it's your girl, Staffy B, right here with the Just Face It show right here on Vent Radio. Tune in every Sunday from 10 p.m. till midnight where we face life victoriously. Listen, real life, real people, real issues. Sponsored by the Good Helpers Heating and Cooling, Mr. Kip Fowler. Be here, be there.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Just Face It show with me, your girl Staffy B, and we come on every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight. I'm just so blessed I get a chance to take you over to the next day. And at my church, we throw up that one finger and we say, God has given us one more day. And this is still the day that the Lord has made, and we are yet rejoicing, and we are glad. And well, I'm going to get right into it because this is a great conversation. It's controversial. It can, depending on the setting, it can turn into a fight. I've seen it happen. And but it is important that we have these kinds of conversations. And as I say to you always here on the Just Face It Show, I try to bring you things to live by. I try to bring you things that will enhance your life and that will teach you, make you knowledgeable. How about that? Yes. So we're not all entertainment. We do quite a bit here to make your life victorious. So help me welcome my guest, Pastor Raymond Davis.
God bless, God bless, God bless.
Pastor Raymond Davis, St. Peter's Church, and he's been holding it down there. He took over for his father-in-law.
God rest his soul.
God rest his
Elder
soul.
Harris.
Yes. Everybody, good God from a burning bush.
That's it, the one and only.
Yes, the one and only. Yes, Elder Harris, and you're doing a fine job right there on Joseph Campo, and he is holding it down. Help me welcome just a man that lays on his face for the body of Christ. You sick, you shut in, whatever. Rodney will come on his line, and he will put you at the top of his list. Welcome to the show, Rodney, Minister Rodney.
Thank you, Staffy. Appreciate it.
Drummer extraordinaire, and we're going to speak with him. I'm going to start with you, Rodney. Let's talk a little bit about the fact, everybody, if you're just joining, I want you to share this show. If you're on my page or if you're in the Vent Radio world, go and share. This show is an important show. Rodney, Minister Rodney, can I call you Rodney?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to respect the titles because that's a whole nother show by itself. But let's just talk a little bit about what you do. Rodney, you've established the Real Church, and you have a passion. I've never seen nothing like it. You have a heart for musicians and pastors and them getting along. Talk a little bit about how did that start?
Let's see. December 15th, 2014. God gave me the Real Church ministry in a dream. Said it to me about 20 times. I didn't even understand what he was talking about. But as it went on, I started writing stuff down on the sheet of paper. The Real Church just kept ringing in my ear. Then he gave me a vision to bring pastors and musicians together. So from that point on, I gained about maybe 6 people to form a team. Most of them have been musicians, a couple of pastors, and I'll just name a couple of musicians: David Whitfield, Larry Whitfield, who is the uncle, David Whitfield, some others that made up this team.
Yeah.
Formed this team, and so we just started beginning to find a way to bridge the gap. There's too many spaces.
Yes.
Between pastors and musicians.
Now, how was that determined? How do you determine that? What happened?
Well,
because you're a drummer.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've been playing drums for 35 years in the church. And what I discovered is, following my pastor, the late Dr. Julius C. Hope, in New Grace Church in Highland Park, Michigan,
Okay.
I would just be with him, just to see the ins and outs, the pros, the cons, the ups, downs, the good, bad, ugly, and worse about what a interaction between a musician and a pastor. I have witnessed even being in all the interviews of a musician being interviewed by my pastor. So to get a glimpse of what pastors go through on the daily, as far as hiring a musician and all that stuff. And so later on down the line, I just started accumulating all the past times that I had with him. And because I'm a drummer too, shout out to New Prospect Baptist Church. Yeah. And Always in Jesus Presence Ministry, where I currently serve as drummer for about a month now.
Right.
With Pastor Vella Davis.
Wow.
Yes. So as time goes on, I just started accumulating things in my head, thoughts, and just discovered that there's a gap that needs to be bridged. There's a lot of division between musicians and pastors. More so, I found out more musicians than pastors. Okay. And I've taken a deeper route, digging deep into the Real Church ministry and be more, a little bit more concerned about the musicians. And so Of course, as time went on, we had different discussions. Pastor Raymond Davis was a part of my first conference.
Yeah.
With Larry Whitfield. And I think that jump started really in 2015. I believe 2015 and 2016 in June. And we had it at First Baptist Institutional Church.
Now, are you more, let me just jump in here. Are you more pastor or more musician oriented? Because I went back through some of your posts and you have seems like you have a heart more for the pastor side of things. Is that true?
Well, I do. I think it's a combination of both. It can be a little bit more on the pastor side because just by my own experiences as a musician, me being a drummer, you never would have thought a drummer would come up with a ministry called the Free Church Ministry. So,
right.
Me being a drummer, I just kind of lean towards the pastors because the pastors carry a load.
Now, do drummers get the respect? I need to know. I don't know if drummers get the same respect as a musician. Raymond, Pastor Raymond, maybe you can kind of jump in here because the drummers are usually the minister of music, and he or she is the musician sometimes, or it could just be somebody that don't play at all.
Well, as a drummer as well, drummers don't expect that they deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would.
Wow. Okay. Why is that? Why you think? Because a lot of times, if it wasn't for the drummer, the church would be a little quiet.
If I could give this analogy, that analogy would be like someone who's working at your job, and when they are the lowest paid, they're often looked down on the most.
Wow. So do you, is it because it's
and often those who are less paid does the most work.
Yes, you're right. The higher you go up, the more you make, the less you work.
And less you have to do.
Right, the less you have to do. So, Rodney, your experience as a drummer has been what?
I think Pastor Davis said it best. We're thought as the least on in music ministry.
Why have you stuck with it 35 years? Are you kidding me?
And I just and the thing was, I had moments where I felt like I don't want to play. I done felt moments where even with my spiritual dad, I came to him one day, maybe in my 20s, say, I heard that musicians get paid.
Yeah.
I just like to be treated like another musician. And his thing was, I'm only focused on pastoring the church. But he said, if you stick with me and you stick with God, doors gonna open for you that no man can close. I stuck with him for 15 years past time.
Yeah.
And so it landed me a new prospect. It landed me at Always in Jesus Presence Ministries. And I'm just excited. So I think we're thought of as the least, but people don't understand drummers are the heartbeat of God. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
Because if you ain't got the beat,
Yeah.
you got the organist and the pianist working so hard to stump their foot on the pedals and everything.
Yeah.
And they're overworking themselves more than they should. So you get a drummer in there that keeps the beat, that keeps the timing. I mean, drummers know what I'm talking about. So it adds flavor to the service, adds some seasoning to the service. And so it's just a good thing. But we all thought of, at least as Pastor Davis mentioned. But it's a blessing.
So would you say that you have to have a heart for ministry? Let me read this a little bit here. I did look up some stuff, everybody, because I want to talk about.
She did her homework.
I did my homework. I did a little bit of homework. Got all this paper and stuff over here. Are pastors and musicians at odds, or are they in sync? And this says that in a musically saturated, self-absorbed culture, the God-glorifying working relationship between a pastor and musician in the local church can deepen the worship of God's people and provide a compelling expression of the transforming power of God. So I want, Pastor Davis, maybe you could talk about the beauty of a musician and a pastor being able to work together, because I think musicians come with one agenda, come to church every Sunday with one agenda, and pastors come with another agenda. another agenda? How can are they at odds or in sync?
Well, that's a tough question. It's a loaded question, but I would say definitely it is great beauty in it if you're working with the pastor, and as a musician who's hired by a church, you don't have an agenda.
Right, really?
You don't have an agenda.
So you're saying that musicians should fall in line with what the pastor?
That's how it go.
Okay.
He's the king of that kingdom.
Okay.
And he's in charge.
Okay. Now,
And when I say in charge, that doesn't mean that that you're being bossy, because being bossy doesn't mean that you're in charge. That really exemplifies that, or that really shows that how much power you really don't have when you have to show that somebody you're in charge.
Wow. What's your take on that, Rodney? Pastors being in sync. Should pastors be in sync with the musician, or should the musician be in sync with the pastor? Who are we following?
I'm going to go on the limb. I'm going to say I think the musicians ought to follow the pastor's lead, because the pastor is the shepherd of the house.
Okay.
But at the same time, once the pastor is designated, whoever's the minister of music, as Pastor Davis mentioned, he did say one key thing: they shouldn't have their own agenda. At the same time, if you hire the minister of music to do their job, then of course you trust them that they're going to do their job. Yeah. And they should do it as such. But when you get to doing your own agenda, as he stated, then it's a lot of foolishness,
conflict
that goes on. And I'll share with you. I'll give you an example. I think one of the things that would squash, if I can use that word, squash that friction between the pastor and musician, is what I do is on every Wednesday, most Wednesdays, I go through my page, and sometimes the For Real Church Ministry page. I'm doing what is called the ear discussion. Okay. The ear discussion is exposure and reconciliation. So you expose exposure. Okay. So you expose the very thing that is really bothering, and the thing that is just conflicting that relationship between the pastor and musician. You expose that, put it on the table, because 9 times out of 10, it's the enemy. So you expose that, put it on the table, squash all this. I've been the pastor for 40 years, and I've been a minister of music for 25.
Who's the more sensitive one out of the two?
I really think, I honestly think that it could be musicians if you're coming from an aspect of egos, arrogance, pride, and other things, to name a few. And so I think that goes both ways. I think it goes both ways, because depending on the weight that the pastor is carrying at the time, depending on that load, and just to have a distraction in that area where you are not really looking for a distraction in that area can cause friction and cause emotions to be in place, because you just want stuff to be right. And it's not necessarily, and we have to, as a pastor and as well as a musician, you have to understand that the fight is not against flesh and blood, but it's against those demonic spirits that just tries to come in and erupt what God is trying to put together. So, but emotion, I would look at it from this perspective as well. I would look at it as if that it's like, it's not necessarily somebody who's being emotional. I think that emotion takes place and friction takes place because we have a lot of musicians who are in churches because of the amount of money that they can get, and not because of the purpose that God has placed on their life for them to be. Because if you get in a place as a musician, they might not be able to pay you as what you are worth, but if that's your assignment for the next 10 years of your life, are you going to leave and go somewhere and cause friction because you ain't in the right place? And anytime, what I have noticed over my time as a musician is anytime that it's time for you to go, you'll be kicked out
Wow.
And if you stay instead of being, even though you're being kicked out, and
You mean
stand,
if you stay over your time?
yeah, you stay over.
past-
Yeah, you wear that welcome out. Then friction becomes because maybe it's not the emotion that's trying to talk. Maybe it's God who's trying to tell you that this is not where you're supposed to be.
Are musicians earworthy of? I mean, are their ears open? And this is what I want. Are musicians always looking for the next place to play? Are you always looking for? And that comes with. Are you always looking for the next dollar?
I would say not necessarily the next dollar, but definitely looking for the next place. If you're not in the right place, you know you're only there because you're trying to get the chips.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now when you hire a musician, because I think when you hire a musician, to take the pressure off of you want to be able to trust them to be able to get the music together, the music department together, and not you having to micromanage.
Well, I don't like to micromanage, but being a musician, and not saying just being the best of musicians at all, but just being a musician, I know what I like to hear, and so again, I put people in place, and then my hands are still like involved at my church.
Okay.
It's not a big church, so sometimes I still have to play. So we have a lot of hired help.
Okay.
And not somebody who has the full responsibility of, okay, you got to get the music for this week, you got to teach it, and y'all got to sing. My church is not big like that to where we can have those nuances, as I should say. But nevertheless, yeah. So
when we come back, should musicians be paid top dollar if they're not skilled musicians? Do I have a call? Oh, before we go there, I'm going to take this caller since they're holding. Hey, caller, are you there? Welcome to Just Face It.
Yeah, Bishop Woods.
Hey, Bishop Woods.
Yeah.
All right.
Bishop Woods.
Bishop,
What's going on, Bishop?
the musician extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Yes.
A home church alumnus.
Yes. Bishop Woods, my goodness. Please, sir, share. I was talking about musicians and pastors being at odds or in sync. What does that take for them? And of course, we as the body of Christ, we want them to be in sync. What does that take?
Yeah. Well, you and blessings to your guests, Brother Rodney, and certainly the pastor Davis there. Listen, that's a week-long subject matter because let's start with the pastors. When pastors get licensed or ordained, they put their robe on them. They give them a Bible and a hymn book. Well, for most pastors, it seems like the hymn book is just another book because you've got categories of pastors. If you notice, Detroit is blessed. We have, and some other cities, we have a lot of musician pastors. Like Pastor Davis,
Yes.
who understands the plight of a musician, and now that he's a pastor, such as myself, I grew up with my home church. My grandfather was a musician pastor.
Yeah.
I
went to St. James. I was under a musician pastor. And even when I got consecrated bishop, my apostle was a musician pastor.
Wow.
And I think the difference there is a lot of churches have messed up, with these new music committees who don't know A flat from C, and and they come up with all these rules and all this kind of stuff, and then some of the musicians, they cheat themselves. They want top dollar, but they're unprepared. And when I would do workshops, I would try to tell the pastors that called me to come in was to work on a long-term plan, because you should be investing in your music. Now, this is me saying this.
Okay.
Don't quote me. But in my mind, the next highest paid employee of a church ought to be the minister of music after the pastor.
Wow. And why do you say that?
Because if you take the preaching and the singing away, you don't have nothing.
You have a gathering.
Yeah, and I think a lot of pastors who just want music have just hired people just to give them music. There is no administrative skills to put together a music department that can have longevity. And a lot of our churches, when we grew up, it was just a lot of times the musician, which had to be the pianist, the organist, and the choir director.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's how it was all my
from that
life
experience.
at Neapolitan. That's how we were brought up. And if no musician was there, Bishop Kerr would jump down and get on the organ, and whatever young guy that was there to jump on the drums for morning service would jump on the drums. And I had that pleasure to share the drums with Bishop John T. Kerr. I had that pleasure. So yeah, so definitely and the thing about it is, you just have churches where pastors have to jump in and actually play in these days, but knew what they want and they knew what they didn't want as well.
But we have pastors that cannot play and they still know what they want. What do we say to that?
And that was the next point, because those pastors hopefully will educate themselves, and they will hire somebody that they can delegate and trust, and that they will listen to. The last thing we need is for a pastor and a minister of music to be feuding. But in my experience, let me tell you, you can have the best musician in town, the best director, and they can put together a choir. But if that preacher ego, or if he's insecure, a good choir is not good for him, because he looks at it, if the choir sing and the folk get to happy and shout, then he gets mad because they ain't shouting off his preaching. So, I'm like, man, we're here to help you. We're not here to hurt you.
Yeah.
This is, you're the pastor of the whole church. This is the choir. They're preparing the ground for you, make preaching easy. But you have that mentality in traditional mindsets, and it stifles spirituality and growth in music departments around the country. So you have that kind of pastor, then you have the other pastor who don't have a clue to what's going on musically. He's just a good preacher.
And can't sing a lick.
Yeah. Now, is this culturally based? Because I do know our counterparts, our white churches, are not paid. Most of them are not paid. They're playing because they love it.
But then I think you have to look at the they have jobs as well. So if they're your engineers,
but is the church? Are you pimping the church then?
No, not necessarily. No, you're being hired to do a job.
Okay.
And your job is to whether to play the organ, to play the drums, or whatever that might be. That's your job to do that. And if you're making a living off that, well, you really can't make a living off that in the black church now. So I mean, it's just it is what it is. You can get what you're gonna get and don't have a fit. But nevertheless, But those guys, they play guitar and you got to look at the fact that to do their church take less than what it takes for us to do our type of church as well.
Okay, but a musician is a musician, skilled or unskilled, right?
Yeah, but you got the Catholic Church, and I got some friends in the Catholic Church, the Church of God, and non-denominational experiences where, like for instance, I can't call his name. I don't want to do that, but they work for the Catholic diocese, so their music abilities is appreciated on the other hand, but they are all a part of the employee team anyway. So because they consider their music to be full-time. They have full-time employees, full-time available music staff to teach and to train. And then others, like the Church of God, they pick out their kids at a young age who are musically inclined, and the churches band together. They do it in the Southern Baptist too, and they send their kids to school. So when they finish music school, they come back to their church and become the minister of music, and they get a salary. They get paid.
Wow.
You know.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's those kind of experiences that I've seen.
Yeah.
And some of our churches are getting it. Some of our churches are on that level where, you know, you got to qualify and be able to read music. You got to have administrative skills, and you are giving a comparable salary to your skill set.
Absolutely.
You know,
right.
So,
Pastor Woods, I got to pay a bill. Here,
yes,
if
pay
you want,
bills.
if you want to stick around. When we come back, I want to talk about the power that a musician has over a service. When we come back.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Yes, let's talk about that.
One.
We'll be right back,
this
everybody. Please share. You can call us here at 248-429-7224. We're going to go take a commercial break. When we come back, how much power does a musician have over a church service? Be right back.
Want to be a guest on the Just Face It show? Then send your information to www.staffyb.com. And if you want to support this show, then cash app $Staffy Blakely. And remember to face life victoriously.
Hello, my name is Kip Fowler, CEO of Good Helpers Heating, Cooling, and Labor Services. Kip, keeping it professional. Call us today for your free estimate on any furnace replacement, AC, boilers, water tank, or even electrical. We also offer labor services for any cleanouts or any kind of labor service jobs that may be needed.
We now offer new construction discounts for residential and commercial heating and cooling HVAC installations. Discounted services for churches and nonprofit organizations. Call us today to inquire about your tax credits and also your home energy credits on any of these installations.
Remember, call 313-270-3600. Call today.
Thank you for calling Good Helpers Heating and Cooling, where good help isn't hard to find. This is Samantha. How may I help you?
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Just Face It show with your girl, Staffy B, right here on Vent Radio, where we face life victoriously. Well, in case you're just joining us, we're talking about pastor and musician relationships, and we're getting all kind of spills. I have Minister Rodney White here with me from the Real Church, and those of you that follow Rodney online, he just lays on his face for pastors and musicians relationship, actually. And he's into exposure, and he just keeps it real and tells it like it is. Pastor Raymond Davis, who is a musician and a pastor, so he has experienced both sides. And I got on the line, Pastor Bishop, I should say, Bishop Andre Woods, who is legendary right here in the city of Detroit, skillful musician, and has just so much to offer, a whole lot to offer up and coming musicians if they would just take advantage of the information that he has. Listen, I left you with a question. How much power does a musician have over a service? I'm talking about pastors and musician relationship. Who wants to tackle that first?
I'll tackle it since I'm the drummer, the least of.
All right.
Okay.
I think that question is a very awesome question to ask. because me being a drummer, I have seen musicians, various churches. And I'll just take mine for example, the one that I'm a member at. I was raised New Grace Missionary Baptist Church.
Okay.
And we have had a slew of musicians coming. And the power that a musician has is very anointed, very gifted, but is a very strong power. And that power really relates to the expertise of what that musician actually has. I've seen pastors get upset. I've seen my own pastor get upset about why the musician is doing this, that, and the third in service, when really that musician is setting the tone for worship. Mm-hmm. And so when you get that imbalance from some pastors that feel like I'm the main attraction, I'm the one that's gonna get his word. Should nobody be paying attention to you? They should be paying attention to me. And the whole power of a musician, now me and a drummer, Pastor Raymond Davis can expound on it a lot better than me, because I'm not a minister of music. But as a drummer, mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of stuff go down in the church where the pastor or somebody felt like they ain't got no power, they ain't got no anointing. How they gonna do this? How they gonna play this and play that? And I mean, the pastor can go off into a hymn or something like that, but the service, the flow of service done already went up, mm-hmm. or maybe the choir does a hymn, and the pastor wanted to, I don't know, slow it down or however to get.
Who has the power there? Who has the power?
I believe the minister of music.
Okay, Raymond, what's your take, Pastor Raymond?
Me personally, I don't think nobody has the power. God has the power.
Oh, come on, Raymond. Come on, Raymond.
And whoever
Pastor Raymond,
whoever he decide to use in the service.
Okay, I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
I'm not talking about and you know I am not talking about the spiritual aspect.
Okay, so we don't have no power. God has the power, and whoever he decides to use in service is who he decides to use.
Okay, but you're at odds and you're out of sync with the pastor was getting ready to speak on the blood of Jesus. And I remember back in the day, the pastor would talk to the musician and say, can you sing songs that relate to the blood of Jesus, for instance?
Yeah, well, I can speak from my own experiences. So playing at my uncle's church, New Foundation, shout out to New Foundation, for 11 years I played there. And one thing I learned was to be in sync and not be in the bathroom while the preaching is going on. Mm-hmm. And from that is and from that, I'm listening to what he's preaching about. So I'm not going to play Amazing Grace when he been preaching on "Oh Give Thanks."
Yeah.
Or I mean, and then I can go to Bishop Woods. I can play "Oh Give Thanks" or something in that regard. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, just being in tune, gives you the power to be able to transform the service is when you're in tune. And that doesn't matter how skillful you are as a musician.
Wow.
You can be skillful, a skillful musician, and out of tune and out of sync with the pastor and the flow of the service, because God is not coming to the musician to talk about the service.
Okay. Wow.
He's not doing it. God is going to come down and talk to the pastor and the preacher who was set for that moment in that house, because it might not be the pastor who preached that Sunday, mm-hmm. but it might be a guest speaker. And if God speaks to him or her, whoever they might be, to be able to run that service mm-hmm. how he wanted it ran, mm-hmm. Then the power lies in that connection that collides together to take the service off. So the power don't belong to nobody. The power belongs to God.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. But not saying that you're saying that.
But we're talking about Bishop Woods. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Is he still? We're talking about the flesh. You asked for something, you didn't get it as the musician. Now it's time for service. You, as the musician, can make my service hot, or you can make it cold. Come on, Bishop Woods, get in here. You could put your foot on the service.
That can be detrimental to that musician's character
Yeah.
if they stoop that low, because at the end of the day, when I played for churches, I had to make it clear that I got my own name and reputation to protect.
Okay.
So if you trust me enough to come into your church to teach a choir or to be your church organist or whatever, then it's my responsibility to be spiritually prepared. And that's how we grew up. My grandfather didn't play with us. I used to have to come straight from school to the church every day to practice every day. Before I did my homework, I had to practice. And we would have to sneak and go play basketball or something, and then we would catch it, when we got caught. But every day, it became a discipline. And I think a lot of these musicians are not spiritually in tune to their pastor. Can I tell you this? There's nothing more glorious and edifying to the church and glorifying God when a music minister, and a pastor flow together.
Yes.
Ain't nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
You talking about
power.
heaven on earth? When the
power.
music department and the pastor is in sync, like both Rodney and Pastor Davis have said, when they working together, it's church, it's home.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's power.
Right.
Listen, Pastor Lydia Wright is on. She says the pastor is in charge of the worship experience, and if the pastor trusts the musician, they will entrust them to lead and develop the spirit of the service.
So, and again, that goes back to what I just said, that God is not coming down to talk to any musician about the flow of service. The flow of service is coming to the pastor, and from there, you can't be taught, but it has to be caught.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But here's the thing about that, and I'm talking from my personal experiences being called into churches across the country doing workshops.
All right.
Sometimes I've ran into pastors who were just totally ignorant to spiritual things when it came to the music. Okay, so when you got a pastor like that who is, I would say, green, who has no knowledge, no experience, knows absolutely nothing, and if that musician is anointed and they're in that place, because we were taught to flow with the Holy Spirit in a service, and you just can't be playing and fiddling around on the instrument, playing anything at any time. When we went to the instrument, when service started, I've been trained like that. Once I sit on the organ, I don't move to the benediction.
That's right.
Because my grandfather told me, you don't know when we going to break out with a song.
Yeah.
You don't know what I'm going to do. You got to be prepared to hit me and follow along with me. But sometimes these pastors, if they're not praisers, I don't want to go there and offend nobody.
Come on.
But a lot of these guys got the letter without the spirit. They are not worshipers and they're not praisers, and that's why there's an inward struggle and fight when it comes to the music.
Could it be that the pastor's coming out after devotion or your praise and worship time? I've seen a bunch of pastors that come from their office after all of that's over, and they don't have a clue that we already sung Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That happened at a church I was at, and we fixed that pastor. That they used to do that. And after the choir would do what they did a few Sundays, he had to break that habit. He started coming out there from the opening prayer.
Yeah.
Because he was like, what is going on in my church? These people are running around and shouting and screaming. What is let me get in here. And I said, I told him, I said, from a pastor to a pastor, you should have had your behind in here anyway.
That's it.
we need to see you lift your hands.
Yeah.
We need to see you praise God sometime.
Right. Exactly my point.
So that's the problem, I think, with a lot of pastors. They are such disciplinarians and they want to do this and do that. But you are a worshiper. You are the lead worshiper and praiser.
Absolutely.
So there it is.
Absolutely. And I've learned that pastors are motivated to build and to transmit, and the musicians should be motivated to experience and express. So if the two could work hand in hand with just those four things, build and transmission, experience, and expression, our services could be 100 every Sunday.
Again, and that's the power that you were just talking about. Who has the power? That's the power. It all plays together. Once you're doing, it's just like a car that comes off the factory line that's fully finished, assembled. When it comes off the line, everything is new and everything is hitting and moving how it's supposed to be. And that's why you're able to drive better in a newer car than you can with a car with 200,000 miles on it.
Right. Now, Rodney, you talked about exposing. What do you mean by that?
Exposing.
What do you?
Let's see.
What do you mean?
Put it out on the table. I think what happens is a part of the vision, or as Pastor Davis mentioned, I mentioned it too after he did, having your own personal agendas. What I mean by exposure is for the musician. I'm just talking from a musician standpoint. I don't know you pastor and musician, but on the musician standpoint, we hide a lot. We hide too much.
Okay.
We talk about one another about somebody else's progress at that church, and we dog the pastor and then clown on them on Facebook as to why pastor messed me up and he did this and he did that and she didn't do this and she didn't do that. And what I mean by exposure is we got to put some of the very things that really hurts and really cuts at the musician. But at the same time that we're hurting, we got to realize that we have been doing some hurting.
I want to ask. I'm sorry. Let me jump in because our time is going.
Okay.
Why don't pastors? Because I don't want this to seem like it's lopsided and we're jumping on the musician. But I want to know, why don't pastors minister more to musicians? Is it just because they're hired?
They don't know.
Because they don't know.
Listen, let me say this. I'm dealing with two pastors right now. I told them I'm going to start what's called the Nicodemus ministry, because they call me by night and don't want nobody to go. But I'm telling these pastors, it's all right not to know, but at least apply yourself. Get with somebody who knows, that can walk you through the process. I'm dealing with a musician. If I call his name, you would know him.
Go ahead.
Very skilled, very anointed, dealing with the church, but because the pastor's hands is tied, because his kids want to run stuff, they can't sing, they can't direct, and they want to run the music department. So they put the pastor, and thank you, Brother Rodney, because that's what we talking about, exposing stuff.
Yeah.
It hurts the church, it hurts the musician, because he or she is trying to do their job, but then you got the kids going home with daddy, fussing and talking about this, that, and the other, and they ain't nowhere near skilled to even mop the floor. But they're up there trying to direct the choir, teach songs, run the praise team, and it's causing havoc.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be that pastor, but he's gonna have to make some choices when it comes to the church.
Yes.
He got to, like the Bible says, he got to rule well his own house and bring his kids into subjection and tell them this is not about the family. It's about the church and kingdom work.
That's it.
Absolutely.
You know what?
Wow.
Before
you,
okay, go ahead.
Give me 32 seconds. Before we do this, listen, I know that some people calling. We can only do one at a time. He can't be on. Pastor, I wish you would come to Skype, Pastor Woods, so that we can keep you on here, because I got some other callers calling in.
Send me the okay.
Skype, Bishop,
I don't know if we could do that.
Skype, Bishop, Skype.
Bishop, go to vent.radio, and we're going to go into Skype. It only takes you 30 seconds. Go into Skype and go to vent.radio. And anybody else that's on there, we'll get you too. I got a couple people that's trying to call in, but I want you to stick and stay. Just go right to, is he there already? Did he do it? Oh, he gone. Okay, call us if you called and the call went out. Call us back. Rodney, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to throw that in.
I was just going to say,
Curtis, call us.
I'm just going to say this, and this will explain the whole exposure thing and everything that causes the division between the pastor and the musician in that area. Pride. I mean, when you got a musician, when you got a pastor that just, as Bishop Wood said, and Pastor Davis has mentioned, you think you know it all, and you don't know it all, and you want to recognize that you don't know it all, and then you want to try to operate in what you think you know that you don't know. You being prideful. You're not expressing or exposing that thing. I don't know nothing. You don't want to ask. You don't want to ask Pastor Davis. You don't want to ask even Rodney White how to play the drums. You just want to take it upon yourself to try to fill a spot that you have no experience.
Is that musician spot a prideful spot to be in because you've went to school, you've studied, you've learned, you know how?
What about those that didn't go to school, that didn't study, that didn't learn, but they are a musician?
But you know how?
But you know how, and you are in church, and that pride there could very well come from how you were treated as a up and coming musician. And you might not be all the way there yet, and I have been in that place as well, where before a recording musician or being a musician that can go in and say, well, if I do this, I want to be paid this amount or something like that before I became that musician. Coming up the ranks, don't do this, don't do that. Now look, not only by other musicians, but by choir members and by pastors who didn't know how to play, but will whoop you from the pulpit. Will whoop you from the pulpit, and as a musician, and you dogging out the musician, and it's not necessarily pride. It's just you don't want that pain that you haven't dealt with in your past. You don't want that pain.
You all take a whole
That's
lot.
it. You take a lot from the choir. You take a lot from the pastor. You take a lot from the people in the audience because you do one wrong thing. Right? You hit one wrong note. You start the song off the wrong way, and you got everybody and their mama who couldn't sing their way out of a paper bag, giving you this nasty look like, what is you playing? Then not only do you have that, but then they going around the church laughing at you.
But the thing about that, Pastor, is people have an ear for what sounds good. They don't have a clue that that's an A flat,
how to get to
minor.
it.
They don't know how you got there, but they can run and tell you must have been something wrong. What happened?
You off this Sunday?
Yes.
But nevertheless, those are the pain that this so-called pride rides on, and just that stuff is how depending on how you were reared. My brother is also a musician, Rodriguez Linson. Shout out, big baby. And he brought us up tough. We had it tough because not only was he a good musician as a drummer and an organist, but Rod could also have a crowd around him, because Rod's just a lovable person. You just want to be around Rod all the time, because he gonna show you how to play and all of that stuff. But boy, if you get on them drums and you can't keep no beat, and you got 20 other people who's around him, that's itching to get on the drum.
You got to get up.
Yeah, you got to get up.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about a musician's and pastor's humility. So here's my question. Pastor Raymond and Brother Rodney, I couldn't pay you this Sunday. Will you still give your best? Let's run to a commercial right quick. On that one, I couldn't pay you because the black church is predicated on offerings for the most part in terms of paying their musicians. Offering was a little low. Some of you have heard that. We don't have it. Now, this is after you sweated out your clothes and after you've done the service, and I'll come to you. Or even before, we don't have it. What part of your ministry, if it's ministry, is service when you can't get paid? Let's go.
Want to be a guest on the Just Face It show? Then send your information to www.staffyb.com. And if you want to support this show, then cash app $Staffy Blakely. And remember to face life victoriously.
The Just Face It Show with Staffy B, where we face life victoriously. Real life, real people, real issues.
Just face it. Facing life victoriously. Jesus, you and me. Just face it. Facing life victoriously. With Staffy B.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. We're having such a great discussion here on the Just Face It Show. Yes, with me, Staffy B. I want you to tune in every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to midnight. Tonight, we're talking about pastors and musician relationships. Yeah, and it seems like it may be leaning a little towards musicians, and probably because after the pastor is hired, he trusts the musician to be able to carry his service until he gets to his preaching part. Well, before the break, I asked a question. In the event that you could not be paid as a musician, and our engineer said, "What about the bounce checks that the pastors pass along?" So there we have it, twofold.
God.
Is it glad to be in the service, or I'll meet you in the parking lot? I think we got a caller. Hey, caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, who's calling?
Larry
Staffy B.
Hey,
Larry Whitfield.
Larry Whitfield. I know that
going
voice.
Hey,
hey,
listen, these pastors need to cut that out. No, let me get to my point.
Watch it.
Let me get to my point. You write me a check and I go to the bank Tuesday and it ain't there. Stop it.
Well, they told you to cash it Tuesday. They told you to cash it Wednesday.
Okay. I just wanted to say that shout out to Rodney White because he's been dealing with this issue for a long time. I remember when he first started talking about For Real Church, so this has been years.
Yeah.
But the issue that we've been dealing with has been much longer than the vision just coming to him to say, hey, let's deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
My experience has been this. And I want to be clear to both pastors and musicians. It has to be at the table initially when a musician comes to a pastor or a pastor seeks out a musician and you sit at the table and you talk. Many times a pastor will say, I need a musician to play thus and so, and that's it. There's nothing else said.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, you're creating a monster because it's really only one vision in the house, and it's the vision that God has set in that house, which is the pastor.
Okay.
So when the musician comes in, he's either seeking a job there or the pastor is seeking a musician to play there. There has to be an agreement. There has to be an understanding. Pastor has to say, this is what I want. This is what I need. I need you to flow with me. The musician has to agree to do that and not create their own vision while being under that house, because that's when chaos and confusion kicks in.
Yes.
There has to be an understanding at the table of negotiation. Now, I'm not talking spiritual. I'm talking practical. Okay? If Pastor Raymond asked me to come and say, Brother Larry, I want you to come and really take the stress off of me. I really need the pastor. I don't want to play anymore. I need you to run this department the way that I need it ran. I'm going to follow those orders.
Okay.
I'm going to seek after his needs consistently to make sure that what I'm doing is in order. And if there's anything that is out of order, then we come and we sit down and we talk and we get things right.
Okay.
This is what is that's not happening. What's happening is pastors, not everybody, pastors are just hiring a musician off the street, if I could put it that way, because they need.
Well, it's desperation, don't you think? It's desperation.
Yes, absolutely.
You'll take me because I can. At least I play an A flat.
I can play.
And
I can do this. I can do that. You don't know nothing about me. Relationship precedes ministry.
Absolutely.
You know nothing about me. You just hire me in. I need you to play for this particular Sunday. I need you to do this, and that's it. So now, when something happens and it's not dealt with or it's swept under the rug, then all of this mischief and foolishness is happening. Now we like, okay, musician ain't no good, and this and this and that. And it's not all on the musician, but it's not all on the pastor either. It all happens at the table initially when they sit down and talk. There are things that need to be said at the table right then, and it's not. And as a result, things like what you all are talking about happens, and it's all the time.
Now, thank you, Larry, for sharing that. Thank you so much. Everybody catch Larry here at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Throwback Sunday, right?
Sunday throwback.
Sunday throwback. He just threw that back at me. Thanks, Larry, for sharing. I got for sharing. I got another call coming in. Listen,
absolutely. I'm gonna hang up. I love y'all.
I love you. Love you. Okay, so he's talking about at the table, but you were already at the table, but you didn't get what was promised to you, and so now that's a problem.
Well, I think that you can always go back to the table. You can always go back to the table and negotiate. I mean, they do it in the NBA. They go back for negotiation, and then depending on your how valuable you are to the team, the table is always open for negotiation. So with that being said, I have been told.
Okay.
I'm going to leave this. This is a good place to put this here.
All right.
So I was just told on last week that you ought not try to get a musician that's bigger than your church.
What? Okay.
And this is somebody that
set
Well, they said that this musician that you had at your church that was playing at your church is bigger than your church.
Oh.
And this is by somebody who was a seasoned musician, right? That said this, and y'all don't want to know what I said to him. So, but nevertheless, I can't say it on this radio show. No, but just joking. I didn't go there. But but don't forget, pastors still have a past as well. And at the end of the day, and what I told him is, no musician, I don't care how well you play, you can never ever be bigger than the church.
But this is what I'm saying. We're forgetting the spiritual element of this whole thing. Now, I think you should be compensated for your skill set.
Yeah. So I look at it like this. It's not about the money until it's about the money. So you got ministries that you can go to, like New Foundation can call me right now and say, Pastor Ray, I don't care if it's a Sunday, our musician gone, we need you to play on Sunday morning. Guess where I'm going to be at Sunday morning before St. Peter's start? I'm going to be at New Foundation, whether they can pay me or not. Neapolitan called me. They say, well, we got service in the morning, afternoon, anything. They called me, look, so it's not about the money until it's about the money. So I don't think that every service that is rendered should be charged. Now, but I have I have been, and I was offended by this last week, and I know we just talked about this just briefly about bounce checks from preachers. So I'm a preacher, pastor. And our ministry, how we set up, anybody who ever do anything, we always just give checks because that's what we do. So now this week I wrote out 50 checks.
Wow.
Right? 50 checks written out. All the musicians get paid in check every Sunday. Right? And And one musician bring his check back and say, well, the check didn't cash, the check bounced. Now, I'm looking on my device of how much money is in the church's account.
Yeah.
And you say your check, well, where's your bank? Well, it's down in Atlanta, and they got another. The corporate is in Canada.
Oh.
But now, 49 of these checks, then cash.
Yeah.
I'm looking at how much money is in the account. Right. Thank God for technology. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, I call the finance lady, which is my mother-in-law. God bless her, Mother Deborah Harris. God bless you. But I give her a call, and she calls, and she pulls up the information as well. And he says that the check bounced. So I'm like, how in the world can the check bounce when I'm looking at how much money is in the account that don't even compare to how much money is here, the check that was written. So, and he went in bad mouth.
That's what I was going to ask.
He went in
musicians go and tell when if we bounce a check.
And that was the same person said, well, you shouldn't have had that person at your church because this person is bigger than your church. His skill set is bigger than your church. Well, God help me. I play just as good.
Yeah.
I play just as good as you play. And on a good day, and if I really start practicing, I probably better than you play.
Wow. Should singers be paid? How about that? I'm going to pass that because I saw a post the other day, Minister Rodney. I saw a post the other day, Pastor Raymond.
What did it say?
And it said the young lady was having a fit because the musicians were paid and she sings on the praise team. So she said, why aren't the praise team singers paid?
The question would be, in return, can the church afford it? That's what it all boils down to. So, and I had to go back and apologize to my brother for for all the things that I did in ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
To him as pastor, y'all not paying me. I'm doing praise and worship. I'm playing the drums. I'm playing the organ. Neil Pollard, y'all ain't paying me. You ain't doing this. And not knowing that he's pastoring, preaching all of these services, and he ain't getting paid.
Mm.
And at the time, the church is in a financial strain. So now, and I'm looking like, man, I can't take this because the church ain't paying me. But the question is, can the church afford it?
Yes.
Can the church afford it?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that might be the pastor's problem, that he got so many people on the team because he want to have a good service, or she want to have a good service, that they have so many people there that they can't pay.
Well, we're still looking for people. If you're a member of the church, we're still looking for you to give something to your church, right, Rodney?
Yeah, I wanted to cut in because I didn't get a chance to hit my little. Piece.
You got to go back. Staffy carrying us too fast.
Okay.
Staffy carrying us too fast.
I'm just taking you with the time.
Okay. So what I wanted to say, you asked a question about humility, and I'm gonna shift it real quick.
Okay.
Where y'all at?
All right.
I've been playing drums since the age of 9,
Mm-hmm.
and I have seen a whole lot of stuff for a drummer.
Drummers see it all.
And that humility.
Yeah.
If you ain't got humility, if you don't know who you serving, who you playing for, and why you doing it, then you need to cut out.
Mm-hmm.
I witnessed a whole lot of stuff happening in my own music ministry journey as a drummer. When I was playing at New Grace Missionary Baptist Church, my pastor, he released me in 2011. He said, Rodney, you can go play for New Prospect. Now, I was playing for New Prospect Baptist Church 2005, 2 Sundays out of the month.
Okay.
So every other 2 Sundays, I was at New Grace serving.
Mm-hmm.
So when he finally allowed me to release me, because late Wilma Johnson hired me, I wasn't a member at her church. I was the only musician that was not a member of New Prospect Missionary Baptist Church. So for me to have that opportunity to play at New Prospect, and then that results in humility. And so my humility shifted me over to be released by my pastor, who I asked. I was scared. Like, man, do Prospect want me to play every Sunday?
Yeah.
Can I go?
That's a scary conversation.
Yeah, and I grew up as like a second son to my spiritual dad. So I was scared to ask him. He was like, Rodney, go ahead.
Yeah.
And so I went to
loyalty.
Prospect, loyalty. And then humility even shifted me to Ovella Davis Church.
Pastor Ovella,
So, I mean, I reached out to her, and when her drummer died, she told me, she said, hey, there's be some drummers up there at Charter LA, they want to get our old drummer's spot. And I just slided a message and say, hey, if you need a drummer, until you find one, I'll play for you. And the minute I said it, no sooner than 2 weeks later, I'm auditioning, and she got us on Facebook auditioning in March. And that Sunday I started playing. I mean, humility, if you work that humility the way you're supposed to work it, doors are open. But if you're being cocky about it, you might as well forget it.
Yeah. Well, my mother always she always brought all of us up and said that and I used to complain, I'm not getting paid this and I'm not getting paid at this person. And I would see what the other person get paid, and it wasn't. Mine's is less than what they didn't got paid. Now we in the same service and did the same concert. I get less money. Yeah. And then my mother always taught us to remember that our reward doesn't come from man, but it comes from God. Yes. But that didn't help buy no more chicken. But I definitely understand that. I didn't understand it then, but I definitely understand it now.
Right. We're gonna go to a song and we're gonna transition a little bit. When we come back, should musicians still have appreciation services if they are paid musicians? And how should pastors appreciate musicians? Go to a song, April, let's go to Craig Memorial's brand new.
I thought you was going to do a Dr. Watts.
We need Dr. Watts right there. We might have to sing that on our own right. And I got a couple questions online, and the time is going right on by. When we come back, how should pastors appreciate their musicians when we come back?
You must confess. compare. If you're down and believe in your heart, you must compare. If you're down and believe in your heart, you must compare. If you're down and believe in your heart, in order to,
The hot topic.
All right, everybody, we're back. We're back to the Just Face It. I'm got about a half hour left in the show. Come on, give it up for Craig Memorial, Tony Lucas. We know that fabulous playing. I remember when Tony Lucas started playing. Wow.
Yeah, Brian
he is
Watkins.
one of the most fabulous musicians here in the city of Detroit. Well, those of you who are just tuning in, we've been talking about pastor and musician relationships. And it's been kind of leaning more towards the musician, but right now,
Musicians winning?
Musicians winning.
Okay.
I just posed the question. I posed the question, how can pastors show their appreciation to musicians, even though they're paid? Should musicians have appreciation services? You're on the payroll.
Yeah.
What, you go ahead? Go ahead if you want to.
Well, I would say, yeah, they should be appreciated.
Okay, well, the whole service, you know,
like
we
like
bring,
a whole service by themselves, and it's appreciation.
we're appreciating the musicians.
Yeah, I think so. You
celebrate
and you appreciate those you love, even if you have to pay them.
Okay.
You just do that.
So it's like a bonus?
It's a bonus, right? And what if you was to work and didn't get overtime? You just got straight time for your
I worked for that overtime, though.
Exactly, but you working for that overtime, right? But again,
So
they don't have necessarily
you.
have to give you double time. They can still pay you at the same rate.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Rodney? Well, yeah.
Right. So I mean, but me personally, what I do, I can't speak for every pastor in Detroit, but what we do at our church is that we appreciate those, whether it's giving them gift cards during Christmas time, because we know that we can't afford to pay them what they're actually worth. So yeah, well, maybe this should be a model for every church that's not able to pay their musicians what they are worth. Is you pay them their salary throughout the year, and then you take time during the holidays to make sure that you be a better blessing to them, because you haven't been all year.
Now, should musicians appreciate the pastor?
I think they ought to.
Okay.
Really, and the reason why I say they ought to is because, give you an example, and I go back to my spiritual dad. I know that's all I've been talking about tonight, but I go back
It's all
to
right.
that.
Many don't have
so,
one.
You know, I think musicians ought to appreciate pastors, because even though the musician is carrying the load, so does the pastor carry the load. The pastor don't just carry the load just preaching on Sunday mornings and Wednesday night Bible class.
Yeah.
They got to visit the sick. They got to call the members up to see how they doing.
Mary and Barry,
you doing all this other stuff. And so then, because then the musician is being hired by the pastor. So that's a double whammy in itself by itself. So I think it ought to show appreciation. And can I give you an example?
Okay,
right
quickly.
quick?
Go ahead.
And I'm not, and of course everybody know I'm not a pastor, but I'm just going to show you, if I was a pastor, I would do it like what I done last year with the Frill Church Ministry. What we did during the pandemic, there were some musicians that was out of a job per se at the church. What we did is, in December 20th, I ain't going to forget it, last year, we did a service at Pastor Pete's church, So Much the More Ministries. And what we did as a ministry is we raised money to help 2 musicians who struggled in the pandemic and had COVID-19. So we raised over $600 and gave at least over $300 to both musicians who were struggling in the pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to say, and I'm not boasting upon myself, I'm just kind of like comparing, that if The For Real Church Ministry can do that and team up and partner up with another church to have a service to honor musicians. Then there's no excuse why a musician cannot honor a pastor.
Absolutely.
But I would say this, and I know I'm not the host, but
Go ahead.
let me ask this question since we're talking. So
Okay.
I'm the host now.
Oh.
Just
See
faced
how
it
they
with
do
Pastor Ray.
Oh.
Amen.
See how they do me. That's how they do me.
No. But my question is for not only musicians, but what about gospel artists that charge, they have to have a certain honorarium when you wouldn't be where you are
but
if
you're
it
not
wasn't
hired.
those people.
I didn't hire you.
Yeah, but sure,
And-
but if it's not for the local church, these small churches singing your songs and buying these
No, I
songs,
agree with
right?
that.
But then
Yeah.
you won't even come on the street that this
Hey,
small
that's a
church is
whole-
on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how does that go?
Well, I think that is unfortunate, and I think that for me, because I've always seemed to work for free, pretty much.
While the artist that you're working for is getting paid.
Yeah, but God
Top
has
dollar.
taken top dollar. But God has just taken that's just how it worked for me. But although my church, when I was minister of music there, they gave me a little something. They gave me something, amen, to show their appreciation. I didn't ask because I knew our church was trying to build.
Yeah.
So that was, and plus I was a member.
Yeah.
So that was my contribution. But to people that ask for $35,000 to come and do songs, I mean, that's their livelihood.
I
I'm stirring
understand.
the pot. I'm stirring the pot.
I get it.
That's their livelihood. And personally, I don't think I don't think I'd pay that for you to come.
Yeah, no.
I don't think I'd pay, but why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but here it is. Why are you
wouldn't
charging $35,000 and you already going to be here at another church?
That's how you make your living. That's how you make your money.
I understand that, but you are talking to a church that can't.
Then
that ain't
I'm not-
raised
then
$35,000 in a
Then
year.
I'm not coming to your church.
See, but is that right when this church is?
Well, now you have to decide if you're in it for ministry or if you're in it for the money. Because I'm wondering why a T.D. Jakes won't come to my church, or why a Noel Jones won't come to my church. My church cannot afford your honorarium, but you're speaking the same word. You are coming from the same Bible, right? So we thought. Why can't you take your ministry and bring it to my little church? Why? Hello, somebody.
Yeah.
My phone ain't ringing.
Uh-oh.
Hello, somebody.
You about to be in trouble now.
Oh,
here you go. Put Bishop back on the phone. Where Bishop at?
Glory.
Bishop.
I'm stirring the pot here. Hey, welcome to Just Face It. Who's calling? Hello?
Yes,
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
I was trying that Skype thing. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's okay. You good right where you are. You good right where you are.
And the bad part about it, I got the app, been had it on my phone, just ain't never used it.
Let me throw this in. Pastor Day, who's a pastor, Pastor Day, Charleston Day.
One a day.
He said that souls are not for sale. Souls are greater than sales.
That's it.
I don't think is anybody in it anymore for souls.
No, it's because I just had a conversation with industry artist, a big time Grammy winning industry artist, and I was just in a conversation with him, and to get him on a song that I'm getting ready to release, and he said, "You are in a better position than a lot of artists that's out here."
Okay.
And he said, it's because you work.
Yeah.
You got a job. Your wife got a job. Y'all working. Y'all got money. Where these other artists, if don't nobody call them for the next show, they can't live from paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Pastor Woods, what do you say about that?
Well, I think a lot of this stuff is where gospel artists made the mistake of signing their lives away.
Oh, God.
And it became industry driven. And I remember my good friend, I'm going to be interviewing her next week, Vanessa Bell. Some years ago, she got stuck in Vegas where they had to cancel the program And so I told her, and Vicky Wines and all of them, they started doing churches and receiving offerings to build themselves up, and started doing conferences and just church appearances because, you know, these big arenas, these auditoriums, where there's this high overhead, and these promoters are only in it for the money. So I think it's fair for a gospel artist, because I was on the road for some time when I had chosen.
Okay.
And it was expensive to move us on air flights and buses and vans and all that hotel, and then give them something that's worth their time, you know, traveling during the weekend and sometime during the week. It's not like it used to be anymore. And so I think if a church or organization can afford the artists, and the artists don't price themselves out of the market, which that's what was happening. They were pricing themselves out of the market, and the industry with all of these management teams that became so crazy.
Overhead.
And so now you find a lot of artists managing themselves.
Yes, that
Because
independent.
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say to you all, I got about 20 minutes in my show. I want to say to you all, because Bishop, you've been in this a long, long time, raised and reared. What would you say to up and coming musicians that don't want to take the time to learn the hymns? We're stuck with the 1, 3, and 5 chord. That's all they know, and most songs are built around that.
Yeah,
and
because
so
it's not coming from our culture.
It's not coming. Yeah, a lot is not coming from our culture anymore. What would you say to the really unskilled musician that's just really assisting our churches with getting by? We're not giving our best.
Well, I since you were talking about pastors and musicians, I fault the musician and I fault the pastor, because there needs to be a standard. And once churches started allowing and compromising their music ministries to just get by with a song or two on Sundays, they made these musicians lazy. And I just told a group of musicians on a private Zoom conference last week, you cannot erase history nor longevity. Find you somebody that's where you're trying to go, and learn from them the ins and the outs of the music industry. And if you're going to be in the music industry, you need to learn the music industry, not just be shouting and glad to get in front of a microphone. You got to learn how to read contracts. You got to learn publishing. You got to learn management. You got to learn all of that aspect so you can protect yourself, because if you don't, you'll run into a manager or a lawyer that every time you get a royalty check, you signing it over because you can afford to pay, and you ain't gonna make no money off of it.
Right.
So it's educational. It's got to be a discipline, and they got to apply themselves. If they're gonna do gospel music, then they really got to study their craft. They got to go to school. I mean, I advocate, if you don't want to just be a fluent classical musician, at least go get some kind of music lessons to learn how to read a key signature or something. Learn how to count.
Right.
And I think with this, what you call the new culture, I think these musicians are going to have a rude awakening because of a guy like me who's got longevity. I got songs that I wrote in the 70s or the 80s that they still singing today.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And
yes,
so
sir.
I'm like, I can tell you, stop trying to be so relevant and to this culture, and just write from the dictates of the Holy Spirit, and write something that's going to be a message song, not just a beat, not just an industry song, because as you know, they'll play it for a few months and you'll never hear it again.
Yeah. It loses momentum.
It loses it.
It loses momentum, and they want you to record again, especially if you're with a company.
Right.
That the industry has ruined it for gospel artists. Gospel don't. The gospel message does not have an expiration date.
Right. It's from the beginning of time. That's right. There is no expiration date on the gospel. Bishop Woods.
You have to love that. You have to love that. You cannot erase that longevity.
Not at all. Not
And
at all.
and if I could insert this as well, when I had got good enough to hold down a service again. And I wanted to go back home and play. I wanted to go back to Neapolitan and play. And Bishop Cavanless and my brother, shout out to Neapolitan. But he said you need to go over to New Foundation and learn and build your craft. And I thank God for Pastor Hall because of this reason here. Is because he did not put no clamps on me.
Yeah.
I was up there in some service. I know I was wrong. I should not have been playing Chick Corea in some of these songs, but I was playing it and I was stretching out and I was learning, and he just allowed me to learn. It was just on the what they call it, on the job training.
Yes.
And he just let me. He never put the clamps on me, and I just thank God for that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. We got to wrap it up. And I know we could not come to a great conclusion for this subject. I will say Psalms 33 and 3 says, sing unto the Lord a new song, play skillfully with a loud noise. That's a directive from the Psalms itself. And for us, for those of you who are pastors and you have musicians, we should appreciate the time and the money spent that these musicians have put in so that we would be able to appreciate the craft that they bring. It just burns me up to no end when I hear a visiting pastor or a pastor dog out his musician because he was in the wrong key or because he played something wrong. I know that was old school, but I just always thought that was the worst. And I've seen people, seen musicians literally get up when a certain prophet came up. He came up and he was just known to be horrible. And he couldn't play nothing. Nothing. Didn't have a clue what key he was in.
Yeah.
And I just think that to resolve this somewhat is that musicians, if you're a member of the church, you ought to want to give sometime.
Yeah.
If you're the pastor,
before you end now, if the musician's going to have a problem with the preacher or the pastor that don't appreciate them after paying them, right? But then the pastor should have a problem as well as a musician who don't belong to nobody church, but sit in church, make money from the church, and won't support the church that they make money from.
Yeah.
As well. Now, it goes hand in hand. If you're going to be in church, I think you ought to give, especially when this is the only church you are at on Sundays, and don't just sit on the instruments and take money and won't give, because then you become a parasite and you can't live unless the church bleed.
Wow. Ouch. Yes. Whoa. That's deep right there. But and it has just been noted that musicians don't give. I'm going to get in trouble right there.
It's true.
Can I slide in?
Not all musicians, but
not all.
Yeah,
but none of this is all.
Yeah,
none of this is all, because we have some wonderful musicians that give.
Yeah,
give
definitely.
their time, give their skill.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about giving money. Let just be straight to the point.
Yeah,
giving money. You at church, right? And you're making money from the church. You ought to be wise enough to, at least if you don't belong to a church, to tithe back into that church, because it's only going to be a blessing back to your life. Right now, why are you going to take blessed money and do cursed things with it and then expect to be blessed?
Oh my,
it don't work like that. And you wonder why you skipping from church to church to church, or you just a Detroit musician. and not a musician with longevity as Bishop, right? Who can go to the mailbox from what he did in the 70s.
Right.
Because you can't just be a musician only. You have to be a musician that tithe. Tithe works.
Yes.
It works. Give back, right?
Right.
And then you tithe, and then it just start happening. It just overflow just happen. And look, don't just be a hoarder.
Exactly.
And you just take in
30 seconds, Rodney. Absolutely.
Sorry, but
that's okay. Go, Rodney.
No, I was just going to say that falls in line with humility as well as other things. And I've been trained by my pastor that whatever church you go play at, no matter if it's permanent or temporary, you give an offering or a tithe to that church because they didn't have to make a way for you in that era. So,
Bishop Woods, final.
Yeah. Only thing, I'm going to have you guys on the Fellowship of Music and Art on one of our panels. But I just want to recommend a book that I use in my workshops called, you might have heard of it, called
Raymond said musicians don't read. He said
by Janny Gurian.
Okay.
And it will help pastors and musicians understand their spiritual responsibility to music ministry.
Say the name of the book again, please.
Called, Appointed, Anointed.
Okay.
Called, Appointed, Anointed.
Now, is it on Audible?
I believe it is. It's by Janny, Janny Grein.
Okay.
Yeah, because I be working it and I listen to the book in my ear pods while I'm working at work.
Good. And you just said musicians don't read.
Yeah, musicians don't read books. They won't take time to read the music notes.
Yeah.
They won't take time to read the Bible. So
that's what 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah, that's 1, 3, and 5. Well, I am blessed to have had a chance to play at my church, and my pastor was skillful in saying, Staffy, maybe it's time for you to move. And that's my father, really, Dad.
Uncle Hall.
And he said, Staffy, do you think you've given all you could give to the ministry? I said, well, I guess so. I guess he got tired of my little A flat.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It was okay. And I felt him on that. He was like, go and build your ministry, and I want you to be. I said, okay, Dad, I hear you. I hear you loud and clearly. But I want to thank you, Bishop Woods, for hanging out with me. I got to get you in the studio, get that Skype thing working.
Yeah.
We got to get that working for you. And you all can catch him. He does shows regularly, specifically talking about musicians and things of music and the whole nine. Thank you, Bishop Woods, for hanging out with me. Pastor Raymond Davis, St. Peter's
Church. Shout out.
Musician
we are
and
one.
pastor.
That's
Thank
what we
you
do.
so much for being here with me. He's got to be at work in about 3 hours. I appreciate you hanging out with me.
No doubt.
But we down like that.
That's it.
And Raymond is also my producer on my CD.
That's right.
The Keep It Moving CD. He's the one
and
that
the Keep It
produced
Moving intro
the
that
intro
just took place.
That you hear, all of that. All of that. Rodney, stay on your face. If you're sick, shut in, need to be exposed.
That's it.
Rodney's got you covered.
If you need an extension to heaven.
Rodney's your man. Rodney's your man.
Call Rodney.
And the Real Church. And I want to thank you, Rodney, because Rodney regularly celebrates pastors and musicians. He gives them awards. He has a day once a year where he specifically gives out awards, and that just never happens. Thank you, Rodney, for being here. Thank all of you for being here. And we're going to go to, let's go to Randall Johnson, and let's, There All the Time. We're going to listen to him. And when we come back, I don't know how long this song is, but the first caller that can tell me the scripture that I gave, I got a little blessing for you. All right, call us 248-429-7224 right after this song.
Yeah.
When I rose early this morning, no doubt in my mind, you were right by my side to lead, to guide, sustain, provide. You're always there when I need you most, you'll be right there. There all the time. There all the time. There all the time. There all the time. Ooh, when I rose early this morning, no doubt in my mind, you were right by my side to lead the guy to stay, provide. You're always there when I need you most. You'll be right there. There all the time. There all the time. There all the time. There all the time. In sickness, you're there. In health, you're there. In poverty, you're there. Oh well, you're there. When I'm up, you're there. Or down, you're there. You'll always be around. You're my joy and sorrow, my today and my tomorrow. I'm aware that you care for me. Help me say there are the times. There are the times. Said you'll never leave nor forsake me, no. There are the times. Said you'll be with me even in a time of trouble. There are the times. You raised me, you saved me, you kept me, never left me. There are the times. I'm grateful that you're faithful. Yes, you are. There are the times when you lost your job. Remember who was. There are the times when you lost your home. Remember who was. There are the times. Even when I lost my mother, he was. There are the times. There are the times.
All right, everybody. All right, everybody. We're at the end of the show. And I am grateful. This is Pastor Lydia Wright singing Give Time, Time. Listen, I want to encourage all of you out there. Give time, time. And let's appreciate our pastors for, especially the pastors that stayed on the wall through this pandemic, that maintained keeping their churches intact, keeping their churches in order by way of online or by way of opening up the brick and mortar and trusting God, following CDC procedures. We are most appreciative of those pastors for stepping out on faith. It's been a faith walk. I saw Pastor Antoine Peak say that it has been a faith walk for him, and we absolutely appreciate that. I do want to send my deepest condolences to Evangelist Linda Ross in the loss of her son, Clarence Ross, who was also a musician at Peters Rock Baptist Church, Peters Rock Church, I should say. Pastor Steve Lee, we lost him this week, and I was with him the day before, and he slipped out of here the next morning. And but one thing we can say is that we know that he knew God and that he had given his best to God. And we just encourage all musicians out there, give your best to God, and trust that God will make ways out of no ways for you. He'll open doors for you because of your skill and because of you giving. I am a firm believer, if you give, he'll give it back to you, pressed down shaking together and running over. That includes your talent, that includes your time, that includes your skill set, as well as pastors. Keep teaching us the unadulterated Word of God. We also mourn the loss of Paris Bowen, a musician extraordinaire, singer, songwriter, producer, Thai tribute, from Jill Scott to Thai tribute, and just a major contribution. COVID took his life, early 30s. Let me tell you all something. Keep practicing and keep doing what they tell you to do. And keep the blood of Jesus with you. And know that God loves you. Musicians, we absolutely love you, and we certainly appreciate your skills. We dare not take you for granted. Pastors, stay with us. You have the hardest job, I think, because you're the least respected. I think you're the least respected, the least honored, until it's time for somebody's funeral or wedding. Well, I encourage you all and know that God is going to bless you as well, over and above, more than you can even ask or think. We thank you both, musicians and pastors, for your skill set and for bringing that to the house of the Lord where we need you most. Pastor Lydia is saying it best. Give time. Don't get weary in your well-doing. Trust me on this. God sees you. He knows all about you. And as we transition to the next day, yes, in about 2 minutes, we'll be crossing over to the next day. We can give God honor and praise that he kept us one more day. I thank all of you. Stay encouraged. I love you. Until next week, just face it with me, Staffy B, and know that we face life victoriously. Take us out of here, Lydia.
Remember, there's a reason for the season you're in. So let patience have its perfect work in you. Yeah. God's just pruning you. He's preparing you. He's perfecting you. You ought to make time. Though the vision tarries, you gotta wait on it. Make time for fasting, time for praying.